for many, this may sound crazy. A prompt library is great news. I know there are teams where people do not write an email without the help of AI anymore.
So in your view, what are the most overlooked areas of AI application right now outside of the sort of generative AI hype?
I know this is a very digitized country. I'm coming from Germany and experience is different there. There's an elephant in the room that everybody talks about. I think at the moment we don't have to tell the people trust AI. They trust AI far more than companies would like them to trust AI.
How can businesses realistically assess if they're ready to implement that AI then?
The most value you create in hybrid teams. And I say hybrid because I think no professional teams in marketing will work without AI.
Hello, and welcome to Tech Effect, the podcast where we interview industry leaders and experts on the topics and trends shaping the tech industry. My name is Josh from TestDevLab's marketing team, and today I'm joined by Gunnar Brune. Gunnar is a business strategy consultant, founder, and AI expert with more than 2 decades of experience under his belt. Gunnar is also a published author with the German language books Fresher, Fruitier, More Natural, a book to aid marketers in the fresh produce industry, that's fruit and vegetables, and more recently, AI Today, a book aimed at investigating AI and its uses in business, medicine, and science. So it's a pleasure to welcome to the show today, Gunnar.
Pleasure to be here in Riga.
Thank you for joining us. It's nice for you to come all the way from Germany to visit us, and it's a nice day outside, so it's fantastic.
It hasn't been a long trip, so we came here yesterday evening, and it's a great city.
Perfect. So now, Gunnar, you have a very storied background and you have a degree in marketing and law, and you've been a business founder and a consultant and an AI investigator. But to help our audience understand that journey, I'd like to take it back to the start. So we're going to be talking about AI a lot today, but that's not where your journey started. Can you tell us a bit more about your journey in marketing and how it led you to work with AI?
So my journey starts with business administration, marketing, and law, but the law part was rather than because the business students didn't like law. So that was a very small course with a lot of discussions with the professor, which in my time was lacking for business students in Germany. But my core profession is marketing, started in advertising agencies, worked in advertising agencies for 16 years. In the end, 4 years as a managing director for a global company. So we did campaigns for Unilever, you name it. After that, I became self-employed as a business consultant, doing business strategy as well as business storytelling. So I'm working with a journalist, and we create better stories to transform business, to motivate companies and teams, and motivate also consumers to buy stuff.
That's good.
Yeah, so that's basically what I do. And of course, I do in business strategy, there has been a point where artificial intelligence came up. And there had been a point where I thought, oh, this is the road which is not going back.
It's just
so
it's
I just took the turn and have been working with people who often more know better than I do. But it's a fun road to be on, and it's an incredible time to be alive.
Fantastic. And you got so interested in AI that you have written, as I mentioned, that book AI Today. What got you so interested? Because it came and you see it's here to stay, but what made you think, actually, I should write a book about this?
Yeah, so when you do business consulting, you are working with a number of business industries. And there has been a point in the mid-end of the 2010s where you saw all these new possibilities coming up. Especially like I was then working with Siemens, and we were on food production. So we have all these shop floor production lines and digital devices, edge, IoT, Internet of Things. And suddenly it gets connected with this thing, artificial intelligence. And you start talking to people, you start talking to the engineers, you start explaining what's possible. And you see networks coming up that do the same thing. So I joined a network of friends in Hamburg, that's AI Hamburg. And we try to understand what's happening and tell the good stories. So kind of AI evangelism about what's happening. And all the talks I did, I thought, let's not leave them, let's not lose them. let's document them. So I started to write down what people were telling me. And you know what's happening when you write down stuff, you kind of, in the end, see the good stuff and want to make it, you want to publish it. So it started on a website of AI Hamburg, on the blog, and it got more. And I was talking to editorial teams and they said, this is great. So let's do a book. And then it got crazy because the book with all these experiences came out the week ChatGPT came into the world.
Timed.
So that was just crazy timing. So I got on TV. My parents were proud. I was happy. Fun time, and fun time continues.
Oh, that's nice. So it was sort of you documenting your journey as AI was coming out, and then right time, right place, as it does happen in marketing as well. And it all just went from there.
It's just like 2018, 2019, there were these crossroads and you saw, I have to go on the trip of AI. I have to talk. I have to know more. I have to translate to people. I have to bring people together. And that got a digital representation on a blog. There was a network. And then suddenly it all came together and you put it on paper.
Fantastic.
Although it's digital, but you kind of put it on paper.
Always put it on paper.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. And this book, it's Künstliche Intelligenz heute, that's the AI today in English, focuses on the diversity of AI use cases. As you mentioned, it was along your journey. So in your view, what are the most overlooked areas of AI application right now outside of the sort of generative AI hype? Yeah,
that's a good thing you say so, because in my experience, especially since the 30th of November 2022, a lot of people who have not been familiar with artificial intelligence before take ChatGPT as the core of AI and large language models as the AI. But there's so much more than that. So when I do my speeches, I always start with AI is so much more than ChatGPT. So try to explore the variety, try to take a look at how machines profit from it, take a look at how AI works in your phone, take a look at the possibilities for tomorrow, and then add generative AI to that mix, but not...
It's not just looking at the chatbot, it's investigating how it actually works, understanding it. It's not just ask it a question, it's, well, how can I actually use this and implement it?
Exactly. And why does this tool work better than the other tool? Why sometimes an LLM is just directing you in the wrong direction, and most of the time it gives you incredibly good answers. And trying to understand all the different features, machines that work there, it kind of helps.
Yeah, it helps a lot. And I guess a lot of it does come down AI. A lot of people say it's a tool. It's the human behind the tool that will know how to use that and how to best apply it.
I think we will come to that. Later on, we will maybe discuss that. In the start, yes, it's a tool and we have to use the tool. We're in a way at the brink of giving AI so much autonomy that we sometimes lose the control and it does crazy stuff. So I really liked your last podcast where the guy said, sometimes with automation, you hit a wall and you hit the wall too many times. Maybe you cannot automate it altogether right now. And sometimes I think with AI, it's a similar thing. Sometimes we kind of lose control in agentic systems, but the simple ones really help us. So it's a complicated world. Yeah. Let's decide what we do and then stand for it.
Well, I mean, we'll discuss that in depth later. But on that, as sort of following that train of thought, we often see companies jumping straight into AI without understanding their data maturity. How can businesses realistically assess if they're ready to implement that AI then?
Yes, that is a good question. And the one thing is data maturity. The first thing would be, do they kind of track data at all? So how many sensors, how much data do they actually collect? Is it the right data? Can they combine the silos to a network? Can they train on it? Do they understand what they can do with AI and what they can't? Is everybody on board? And I see a lot of companies who want to have the quick wins. So pick the low-hanging fruit. Of course, you can do that. Of course, that gives you a good feeling. But we enter a field or a time where AI gives us so many opportunities. So maybe do it with a strategy and not just pick the next low-hanging fruit. And this, in the last edition of my book, I wrote this 3x3 strategy, which covers the knowledge of AI, it covers the people in the company, the business model, and it covers what you have to do. Especially, of course, you have to have data maturity, you have to have a digitization. That's the main thing. Not just having data, but having data that represents your business model. Yeah, because
without that,
we had this little chat before about base decisions on data. If the data doesn't represent the situation you're in, then you take the wrong decision. So also think about how much of your business is being represented by data, if you need more, and then you can apply AI to that, and then you will be successful.
Good. And just to dive deeper into that, with all this AI media talk and the business world, you say companies, they do go for those low-hanging fruits, and they do need to consider their data maturity and how it can apply it. But how can these companies avoid getting lost in buzzwords and instead just focus on the AI that adds real business value? I think you talked about your 3-on-3 thing, but could you go a bit more depth into that?
Yes. I think there's like 3 dimensions. The one dimension is understanding AI and understanding AI beyond generative AI. So understand the kind of small AI analytics, and the kind of the gray field in between statistics and AI, and just work with data. And then you move on, and then there's a point where some solution will only be possible with AI. So be on that path of understanding what AI delivers, but also be on the path of digitizing your company. The main idea is, up until now, there are many companies who are successful, but they haven't digitized at all. Now imagine the force of AI coming to the markets. Companies that have not digitized up until now will be behind digitization and behind in AI. So there is no way you can survive in the future without digitization, because digitization is one step of getting better. The second step is then leveraging it with AI.
Yeah, that's good. And with that, we're also seeing, and I think we touched on it a little bit earlier, we're seeing this more autonomy is being given to AI, and that's meaning AI agents and those autonomous systems are now a growing topic. As you mentioned, we're on the sort of cusp of getting really like AI agents that can really handle themselves and have the autonomy. It's not like the old days where it's a chatbot and it can give you data back. You give it data, it gives it data. They can do basic tasks for you. So what is your take on the future of business strategy with AI? Will AI agents be a helpful tool, or will we see them more as future sort of colleagues in a way?
That's a very, very interesting question. So I think the first thing is, with the dominance of understanding of generative AI, we have a focus on things like the ChatGPT, and we have a unfortunate focus on improving the individual work of a person with AI. We have to think of the work of teams and value creation, and where AI take a role in that, which is we have to think differently. We have to think in process and what creates value, and then apply AI on that. And that is the first thing. So for many teams, this may sound crazy, a prompt library is great news, which kind of sounds crazy, but in our workshop, this is something that they all take home. And this is just the first thing. So people use the same knowledge. They should now think, what are we all doing the same? Maybe this could be done by AI, and we can concentrate on what people can do better. Then the next thing is look at the greater picture of the company, the business model. Where in the business models are inefficiencies or bottlenecks especially. So you look for the bottlenecks. If you can crack them with AI, then you look for the innovation you want to do. Can you do innovation with AI that you always wanted to do, like the last decades? And now you can do.
You can do.
And that's the type of thinking, how you can improve with it, and not just, improving the work of a single person in front of the screen with the keys.
So it's not just about giving someone a tool and being like, this will help you.
Yeah.
You need to identify areas in a way. And I think we've heard of some previous guests, and we'll probably talk about it a bit more today, It's also about finding ways where you can give constant repetitive tasks or bottlenecks to an AI agent that has the capability to do them, so the people in your office have more time to focus on what humans do best,
Exactly.
that creative human element.
Absolutely.
What they can bring, because it frees up their time from having to do all those things that they would otherwise, like they've had a project they've wanted to work on, but they just have to fill in this and they have to do that.
Yes.
So they have that prompt library, and then they can focus on the human aspect. They're not just doing everything else.
And sometimes it's very interesting to see that it's little things. It's that generative AI has the ability to connect dots that you could not connect before, connect silos that human beings had to connect with a lot of manual work before. So these agents that really work sometimes do kind of tiny stuff, but they do it very efficiently. So it's not like the real kind of the production lines of AI agents that are the big thing at the moment. It's the little things they can do. They might not be like agent might not be the right word, but it's the word we use. So let's be inspired rather than think of the robot going through the building. It's like the little things. It's not like a huge role. It's connecting dots.
But as AI gets more advanced and people are able to trust it with more complex tasks, I guess we'll see that trend come through. It's not just a tool that like a word processor or an Excel sheet.
Yes.
It's something that actually enables people to do more with their time.
Yes.
That's good. And then looking, I guess, more at maybe leadership roles, and you've written a white paper on leadership for teams working with AI. What are some of the biggest mind shift sets leaders need to make when they are managing these sort of hybrid human AI teams that we're starting to see?
Yeah, so leadership we consider as something where you lead people, but leadership is also about creating culture and creating environments for value chains. And this is something which many leaders at the moment in the companies that we look at do not think of, because the environments were so stable, so they were leading people in given tasks. Now they have to use something, and maybe I can introduce a German word, which is Gestaltungsfreude.
Gestaltungsfreude.
So the Gestalt is, Gestalten is the term for creating something and giving it a form. And to this giving it a form is also, it can be hard because you have to creative, you have to take responsibility for what you're creating, and that can intimidate you. So you may be shy of doing this. And the Freude is a word that is represented by the English word joy. So be happy about gestalting something, or creating something, giving it a form, and be responsible for it, rather than shying away from this. And this Gestaltungsfreude is something that especially the management right now needs, because they have to take the people on board, they have to get a new understanding of their business models, and they have to learn for themselves. They have reached a position where they thought maybe you don't have to learn so much more. Now, guess what? It's 2025, 2026, and suddenly you have to learn so much more because there are news and new possibilities, yet you just can't stop learning because the best people in the world are learning so much. Yeah.
And I guess then for a role, it really is for leaders. It's a question of the leaders who are able to step up, take charge, are ready to look into things, be inquisitive, take that responsibility and move on. Whereas if you're just, well, it's a tool and if someone else will figure it out for me and then just tell me, that's not where it's really going to work there.
And maybe to explain what we did there, so I did not write, no, this is actually the white paper. And I did this with a leadership coach, Christina Kerin, and she is, I would call her the fire brigade if the C-level is not functional anymore. So if you have a board of directors and they somehow do not work anymore, she gets them working together again. And so we had these discussions. We coincidentally met a year ago, and we had these discussions about bringing together my expertise and her to an idea of how leadership and new work, what that would need. And those have been very insightful discussions. So me coming from like the business perspective, the models, and she's coming from the psychology, the leadership theories and stuff like that, and we brought it all together.
It works, and it motivates those teams to get moving.
And also it kind of, we never stopped learning, and I learned so much about the perspectives of the people she's been working with.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Little exchange of knowledge.
Yeah.
So how does leadership evolve when AI systems begin informing their decisions then? So they've got these decision-making analytical roles that were previously very human, and they're a motivated team and they want to make things. How does AI impact that process and those roles?
Yes. The amount of imagining the complexity of what you start increases. So you have to take responsibility for results and for outcomes that are controlled by many more factors. Because up until now, you had a given machine and you have a team that was doing tasks, and this kind of worked together pretty easily. Of course, like when we look at startups, that's a different topic. But maybe a startup is a nice image, because when you're starting off, you don't know where you get. And this is what happens when you apply AI to the work of your team, because you change the way you work. You find new ways of working. Everybody in the team has a new role because some of the part AI takes over. And to keep everybody happy, to apply people to the new roles and to have AI working where it can work best. You need Gestaltungsfreude, and you should not be fearful, and you have to keep the people on board, because it won't work if you lose all your talent, especially now where talent is scarce and you cannot find the talent right again.
You need to put in that effort. And I guess it links to what you previously said. It's not just decision makers on the day-to-day with those AI agents. There's a lot more imagination and possibilities for those sort of C-suite people. And it's similarly to like the normal office workers who are doing a lot of work. It frees up time, those AI agents, and AI can help all levels of the industry free up their time imagining or working and just doing what they do best.
Yes,
it empowers them in a way.
It empowers them. There is a but, and that's an interesting but. Now, see somebody, I know there are teams where people do not write an email without the help of AI anymore. We can imagine many people who say that the answer that an LLM or a ChatGPT gives them is so good, they are impressed. They would not have thought. We talk a lot about the human in the loop. How should this human who is impressed by AI, who thinks, oh, this is so much better than me, be in the loop? How could this human be in control? So this is the one thing that people get into a stress. What if AI fails? Last week, no, it was this week, when Cloudflare,
I think,
went down, and I was doing a course on, using LLMs. And then suddenly one person said, oh, no, my Claude is not working anymore. Then the next said, my Perplexity is not working anymore. Then one said, oh yeah, ChatGPT is still working. Oh. And then somebody said, yes, but my ChatGPT is not working. Oh. So what we had was that many tools went down, and then the pressure of usage on ChatGPT went up, of course. And then the free accounts went down immediately. The cheaper accounts were slower. So you could immediately see who had which account and how everybody in this world was dependent on AI. So we're getting impressed. We get the feeling AI is better than us, and we cannot work without it. How should somebody like that control AI? The next thing is AI takes over our tasks, and it takes over different tasks. So we kind of lose track on it. And we kind of get to the edges of the work because ever more gets done by AI. Also, again, how should a human be in the loop if the human thinks AI is better and if it takes more work? Now, what is our work in this environment? Our work is to react when happens what happened this week. AI went down. So suddenly we are in this incredibly intense situation where we as humans have to do all the work that AI did before, but we cannot do. So we are kind of like a fire brigade. We have these phases where we are not needed at all, where we are at the brink of being, how how long will I do this job where I'm obviously not needed? And then we come into a situation where I'm very much needed, but being overwhelmed about what's happening because we're in the fire brigade and everybody, the whole building is on fire. So I think the stress of the individual on the workplace is going to rise. And we have to think about how we can cover people that they do not break down in an environment where AI is kind of just pushing them to the limits, because they have to be great human beings when AI breaks down. And how do we cope as humans with that?
And it's making sure, I guess, as you said, talent is hard to replace. And if you do find the right talent, they will probably be someone who is able, okay, AI is down, but AI helped me. It was really useful, but for this short period, I can handle this until AI is back in a way.
Exactly. And this can, I think, in general, this puts a lot of pressure on the people because people are being forced into what cannot be automated. And we can say, that's great, we do not have the routine anymore. But you and I know a good week of work is some intense hours and some maybe more routine hours. And if that balance is lost, many of us might not be able to do that work again.
If that routine is lost, we might end up getting lost as well in the whole process. And sort of, I guess, taking a step back, you've worked for over 2 decades in what you've done, and you know what traditional management does look like versus what it looks like now. There's a lot more startups out there. But in traditional management, efficiency is often the main goal. Does AI change that equation, perhaps maybe towards creativity and adaptability? And I think we touched on it briefly. It helps C-suite leaders imagine more. It helps teams focus on their human element. But would you say that completely removes the desire to have incredibly efficient teams and a step back towards people, we want creative people? Or is that still coming through?
There's still a mix, of course. My impression is that at the moment, AI is especially making things more efficient. So it's kind of widening bottlenecks. But the new idea, the really fundamental creative stuff is still being done and built by people.
And we've talked about how teams can use AI and the role of leadership in making sure everyone feels involved and they're working to their full potential. But how can leaders foster sort of trust and collaboration in organizations between AI influences and those daily decisions of everyone?
That's a funny question. Maybe, I know this is a very digitized country, so I'm coming from Germany and experience is different there. There's an elephant in the room that everybody talks about, other than other elephants in the room, which is shadow AI. I think at the moment we don't have to tell the people trust AI. They trust AI far more than companies would like them to trust AI. Because what people use in their private lives, in their little risk environments, it can be disastrous for a company if they apply this usage to the company. So people come to work and they say, okay, I have this task and I have these tools. These are not the tools how I would do it at home. Usually they come to work, and at work they have better tools than at home, which is what a workplace is for. And this combination is completely
sort of separating those
collapsed in a way. So people come to work and they say the tools that the company gives to me are not as good as the tools I use in my private life, because I cannot use this application, that I use at home, and now I have to use the typewriter again in a way. Because the companies, of course, have to see what tool they use and how they combine it, and if they have the IT environment and so on. So that's a big challenge, and a challenge I might not have a really nice answer for, because I think every company has to find its own solution and somewhat explain that you just cannot trust what you use in a private life for your business application. Sorry, that might not have been the answer you've been waiting for.
It makes sense. And then we talked about teams, finding the right people, maintaining your talent. Yeah. And you've played an instrumental role in founding and scaling companies.
Yes.
When you were hiring and building those teams, looking for that talent, what did you look for in the leaders and engineers to ensure quality was embedded in that culture, not just a checkbox?
Yeah. There's this nice interview with Barack Obama that comes up on the business social networks every time. And he says, just getting things done. So I see so many teams and individuals being distracted by like small doing tasks, stuff, doing little tasks and maybe getting funding and stuff, but they just don't get things done. They do not document, they do not create, and they don't build teams and create results. They rather look for how much they have worked than rather to how much they have done. So if you find people who get things done, especially if you find people who get things done, that's so much different than a team that has the greatest pitch of all, but for 2 years have not created a model. And that you talk to and you recognize in the dialogue that they are perfectly suited for creating the model. You motivate them, and then 2 weeks later they have the model that they have not created for 2 years. You scrub your head and you see that. And this is not what you can move on, because you can maybe motivate one little team, but you need teams who have that in their DNA. Let's create something, let's do something, let's get stuff done and focus on that.
That's where you have to, when you have that talent, you have to hold on to it and nurture it and help it keep growing.
Yeah, and you have to keep growing, and you have to take be responsible for creating something. And when you did not get stuff done, then your week has been lost in a way.
And then I guess to pull that all together and combine those business leader elements, those AI elements, I want to look at some examples you've looked at in the past in your journey through everything, some of the stuff you talked about in your book. So we'll start on a book we will revisit. It's the one on fruit and fresh produce.
Oh, lovely.
But to start with that, you contributed to a Springer Nature publication on AI in sustainable food management.
Yes.
What sparked your interest in connecting AI with sustainability in agriculture?
Yes, that is, so like I said, when you're in business consulting and marketing, you meet a lot of branches, and food has always been a pillar of my business experience. And I've led a marketing department for 4 years of a fruit and vegetable company, so I know what the bottlenecks are there. So that's actually one of my favorite examples for AI at all. Imagine a banana or kiwi, avocado or mango. You have value chains where you harvest these fruits when they're not mature. Then you transport them in the not mature, hard, not really nice
not
state.
Tasty, yeah.
Not tasty. It's not tasty. It's hard. It's acid. The acids are high and the sugar is low. Then you come to the place where they are consumed. Of course, you could fly them in the mature, but that's not
very expensive,
environmentally sustainable. It's expensive, and it's just not good. So you take the banana and you bring it to Europe or North America or Asia or wherever, and then you ripen it in a ripening facility. Now, this is done by a number of factors. So there's heat or warmth, a temperature. Then you have ethylene, that's a gas that is kind of the signal giver. It's kind of this transistor in the system of the plant that tells you, oh, now you can go ripening again. And so you have at least these two factors. There's actually more. So there's carbon dioxide in the room and stuff like that.
Monitoring everything.
And there are people who can do that. So you have the room, you put in the factors that control the ripening, and human beings can do that to a great extent, but they have to be masters of that trade. And there are few masters of this trade, and these masters have to face far more challenges than they used to, because, of course, the system in grocery becomes more and more complex. So you need suddenly, on a short notice, a lot of bananas. How do you do that? Yeah. And when you overdo the ripening process, then the banana kind of gets brown at home right away. It's just not stable. So for being able to react on the customer response and needs on a daily basis in these complex environments, in the groceries, you need banana ripers that are far more capable. And this you can do with AI. There's a little company, SoftRipe, in Germany. And there's Frigotech, and they have the system SoftRipe, and they now distribute AI for banana, avocado, mango, and so on, ripening all over the world, because the fruit gets ripened with less energy, and the fruit comes out more stable and better tasting. Then you would be able to do it as a human being alone. You still need mastership in controlling the process, but with this software and the whole control of the environment, you get further on. You lose less natural produce, so you lose less bananas and fruit, and they stay better at home, so the consumers also don't throw them away that much. They taste better, so maybe people eat more healthy stuff. So I just see the good stuff in it. I love it.
And then in that journey, because there's obviously the ripening facility, the production facility, waste reduction, supply chain transparency.
Yes.
Where do you think AI is currently having the biggest impact then?
That is a question hard to answer, because AI impacts all the steps in the value chain. So it's not just the ripening, it's also it's on the farms, how much fertilizers you put on, how is the status of your plants, what is the ripening grade. You control all these factors with it. So when you have, for example, greenhouses, they are environments where a lot of AI takes place. So you might want to heat up the greenhouse a bit more when there's a cloud coming, so that in the end, the tomatoes enjoy a more stable temperature, because tomatoes, they don't like change of temperature. They always want it nice and cozy, being kind of the divas they are. And so you are in the beginning of the production, then you have the ripening for other product. And then, of course, you go to the supermarket, and you always want the right amount of produce in the supermarket, especially with natural products that do not have a shelf life of half a year, but rather of days. So you need demand prediction. How much strawberries do we need in 2 weeks' time in the supermarket for the first weekend, Muttertag, on May in Germany? If you get that right, then the whole loss in the process is less. It's more sustainable. Everybody's happy, because the whole system, especially the consumer, gets greater benefits.
It's not just fast-paced supply chains. You've spoken about smart cities and digital twins as a way to bridge urban development with data-driven intelligence. Can you explain what actually is a digital twin, and what does it mean in practical terms for a city?
Yeah, that's a funny story, because I held this speech at a great fair for building technology, and then I was approached by the editors of a book line, and I actually wrote a book that's due to come out about better building with AI. And buildings, they have, there's for a long time, of course, buildings get created, planned, and built with a lot of digital tools. So you have building information systems that follow the idea of a building being a source of data, and you build a single source of truth for the building. So you can also 20 years later know which component is being built into the building. And this idea is still kind of a stable one. If you think now the possibilities we have with more complex calculations, statistics, and AI, we can create a representation of a reality, of a machine, of a building, and of a city in the digital sphere. And this is the digital twin. Now, the digital twin could be possible without AI, but then we would need kind of a deterministic formula of reality. Reality is so complex that many times we are not able to really calculate the outcome of all the factors that come in today. So AI helps us to get a better idea of the future of things we cannot calculate. It gives us often precise predictions. If we put all that together, then AI allows us to create twins of our realities, of a building, of a city, of the traffic in a city, or the energy system of a city, that by being a digital representation allows us to control it better, to be more efficient, to plan better, and to build better cities, environments that are far more sustainable.
That's good. And then to pull on your marketing experience in a way, in your experience, how do marketing communication play a role in helping these city administrations? Because obviously city councils change, and people change, and history changes. How does communication marketing play that role in helping those administrations and citizens understand and trust these technologies then?
Oh, this is a very, very nice question, because we are living in democratic societies. There's not just a mastermind thinking something, then doing something, everybody follows. The magic comes when everybody is collaborating and we create as a society a better future, which is far better, not least because everybody of us feels it's more legitimate, because we have a stake in it. And how do we create this for a complex decision on how we build a city? Now, AI allows us to make decisions in more complex environments so people can feed in more of their ideas. So there, for example, in Hamburg is part of a project of the connected cities. That's Leipzig, Hamburg, and Munich. And they test digital twin technology on all fields, and especially on participation of the society and of the individuals in society. So in Hamburg, there's a train station that is going to be taken down and rebuilt at another place of the city. Not far away, but that's a complex thing, because you have to build the lines again, subways above the ground and everything. And what do you do with the free space? And how do you manage the space that you now need? And for all this, there are digital tools that are supported by AI, where people can, first of all, get an idea of all the changes and the complexity of the changes of a city when you do something like that, and then give input. So it helps the individuals to understand the complexity of what their society creates and be a valuable part in creating this better future.
Yeah, and then that citizen involvement and seeing the benefits also helps build.
Absolutely. One has to say that these digital twins are not total 100% representations. At the moment, they represent a specific perspective on it. So, for example, this perspective of a planning situation, or a traffic situation, or energy, but they're not combined into this kind of master AI like in the movies.
Yeah. And then I guess moving on to marketing and looking at you have a lot of experience. You work in marketing. You have deep roots in marketing and storytelling. How do you see AI changing the art of science and brand storytelling then?
Yeah. So the first thing is we always struggle, and we will keep on struggling and finding better ways to understand consumers and clients. And first we have to do research. Research means a lot of contact with our target groups. Then we can use AI for that to have maybe more natural interactions to gather this feedback. Then we have all these data, and how do we deal with the incredible amount of data? How do we get an idea of what it all means? So an AI can help us get a deeper insight and more focus in these data, what is relevant and what is not. Also because it can unleash a power that we have not talked about, and which is a power we may understand since ChatGPT is in the room, the power of human dialogue. Yeah, because now we do not have to read an Excel file with 100 columns to understand a target group. We can feed this file into an LLM, create a synthetic target group based on this data, and start chatting with them.
But with that, I guess, and that increased involvement, for some people who are maybe just hearing about this or just considering it, they may fear AI may make marketing more automated, but how do marketers keep that authenticity alive then? Yeah. So they get their data and...
Well, we have to say that in today's world where everything is digitized, a lot of marketing will be automated, and it is far more marketing automated than we saw in the past. But there's still the idea of being special, of standing out above the crowd. So digital marketing can first establish a faster contact to our target groups, but then our target group somehow learns the market, learns all the brands, and now which brand stands out and which brand the people may want to pay more. And in this stage, you need to be different, and you'd have to apply mechanisms that maybe have not been done before, which is where AI struggles. Yeah. So the most value you create in hybrid teams, and I say hybrid because I think no professional teams in marketing will work without AI. Yeah.
Really use. I mean, we even when we're coming up with ideas, AI is a really useful tool for us in our marketing when we're just like, oh, how would this? Let's have a discussion, and we can use AI to help us figure out, like, okay, instead of having to research every single website manually, see what their offering is, I can sort of already gauge which ones I should pay more attention to.
Exactly. And then you unleash the power of dialogue, because you can suddenly talk with your data, which is incredible. We never were able to do that. So we talked with, like in focus groups, we talked with housewives, and we talked with business leaders, and we talked with I don't know whom, and suddenly we can talk with the data. And this is incredible. This is maybe for marketing, and especially the marketing planning, the greatest surprise may be.
Yeah. Very good. That's a fantastic point. So do you think AI will ever truly be able to understand and replicate the emotional dimension of the story, or will that solely stay in the human hands then?
As of now, it's replicating, which is in a way copying without understanding. If it will ever understand, I think that's a philosophical question.
That's a big deep question.
The powers of simulating will already now makes us feel very often that we are in dialogue with a human being. And as these powers evolve, there'll be a point where we cannot differ. It's just, it feels so similar. It feels like another human being, which might have a belief and emotions and so on, because you can emulate all that. So I think in the end, it's a philosophical question.
Deeper question.
Yeah.
But from across your experience in consulting, authorship, and mentorship, what does excite you about what's coming up, the future, in the next 5 years of AI, digital transformation? Okay. What makes you most excited?
So most excited at the moment makes me that we get from the phase of experimenting to actually getting things done. So where people really change the way they work. And that will be the most part. I have seen so many tools coming up in the recent years, but I have the feeling that we've reached somewhat of a plateau, and now it's time to apply these, to have somehow the time to really change our process. That'll be the thing to watch out for the next 5 years. Let's say, in my perspective, I might be wrong. And then, of course, there will be a next step, but who knows what that will be? Will it be AGI? Who knows? I doubt, but what do I know?
We'll find out.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. And for companies who are just starting to explore AI, what is the best first step they can then take that's strategic, not just experimental, moving beyond that experimental stage? What's the first concrete step they can sort of take with AI and how they can implement it?
Very good. Look for what you want to achieve. So look for your bottlenecks. Look for the innovations you always wanted to do but never could. And look for the opportunities to have to change your business model like you never imagined. And that is what I do in workshops when people want to have a strategic take on AI, to ask themselves these 3 questions. What are my bottlenecks? The things that kept me up the last years I could never resolve? What are the innovations I wanted to do but never could? What are the changes of my business model I never imagined, but I now have the inspiration?
That's good. And then I will say, unfortunately, we are coming to the end of our time today, and you've been fantastic, and we have a lot more we could talk about. But before we go, and so people can learn more about what you talk about and your journey and everything you have to say, where can our listeners learn more about you and follow your work?
Well, they can look for tricolorestrategy.com. That's tricolore-strategy.com, which is my strategy business consulting identity. Then people might be more interested in storytelling than business. That is narrative-impact.com, where I, together with a fantastic journalist, Jörg Pian, we, of course, train how to use AI for storytelling, different topic. But we also give an idea of tools for storytelling. And then, of course, you can read the books. Yeah, so you can read about the great topic of fruit and vegetables. Yeah, read about the pineapple. That's the greatest story of them all, but for another podcast. In Frischer, Fruchtiger, Natürlicher. But then, as you're listening to a digital podcast, you might be more interested into artificial intelligence. So that's, if you're German, Künstliche Intelligenz heute. Then that's leadership and new work with AI. That's in English as well. You can find that at, I forgot the website, but we can put it in the show notes.
We'll find it there, and we'll add it there later.
And then there's more coming up. So just follow me on LinkedIn, wherever. And I'm trying to cover what other people do and trying not to be too shy about what I do.
Fantastic. So if you didn't know where to follow you in the past, you definitely can. It can be in print. It can be online. It can be on LinkedIn. There are many places to follow your work and everything you talk about. But as we close off this episode, I'd like to thank you, Gunnar, for joining us today, sharing your insights. It's been great to hear how AI has been so useful and is changing the way we work in supply chains, in business and decision-making, powering workers, and sort of where it's going and how it impacts all those sort of different places that you've seen in your journey.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
No, you're welcome, of course. So as mentioned, if you want to follow more of Gunnar's journey, you know exactly where to start. And if you want to know more about making top-notch quality software products, you can check out TestDevLab's knowledge base, where we have white papers, blogs, case studies, and of course, more episodes of Tech Effect. So thank you, Gunnar, once again for joining us today and sharing your insights. And thank you to you, the audience, for joining us. And I'll see you in the next episode.
Not me, but him.